Hello and welcome to Smooth Traffic episode 14. We've got a whole array of more motoring delights in this episode. We've got the Bahrain Grand Prix recap, the Ford Focus RS review from yours truly, some auction news, and the fifth car in the Smooth Traffic 5-car garage.
Right, well, this is the bit that I really want to get stuck into because this has been one of the most exciting weeks of car driving I've had for a long time. It's a really big launch in the UK this week. It's the Ford Focus RS launch up in Oxfordshire near Silverstone. And on Silverstone as well, we got to take the car around the roads of Oxfordshire and on track at Stowe Circuit at Silverstone. It's been a fantastic week. I've got so much to say about the Ford Focus RS. It's an absolutely wonderful machine. Obviously, RS Rally Sport, a lot of heritage within the Ford brand. It sort of denotes Ford's most extreme and most powerful sort of road-going cars, although not anymore with the Ford GT. But the RS is a really, really special car. First time they've gone back to four-wheel drive since the glory days of the Ascot RS Cosworth and Sierra Cosworth, and my God, has it paid off. We've got the 2.3 litre EcoBoost engine, which is four-cylinder petrol, out of the Ford Mustang, but heavily modified by the designers at Ford Performance to now produce about 345 brake horsepower through the four-wheel drive.
Impressive stuff.
Yeah, it's absolutely rapid. 0 to 62 takes about 4.7 seconds and has a top speed of 165 miles an hour. But that isn't the real story, because the real story is just how fast you can drive this thing on roads. It is as close to a rally car, I think, as you're going to get on the roads, and the price is outstanding as well. From about £30,000 you can buy this car, which for the performance is actually quite astonishing. And I know I drove the Civic Type R last year and I was absolutely blown away with the Civic Type R. And again, this is a car in a very similar mould to that, and it's got to the stage now where hot hatches are not really hot hatches anymore. These are serious performance cars. For me, they're now super hatches. You've got your hot hatches slightly lower down for me. Clio Renault Sport, about 220 horsepower. Fiesta ST, 180 to 190, 200 maybe if you've gone for the Mount Tune pack. Focus ST as well, that's sort of 230, 240, a bit like a Golf GTI. These cars are on another level, a completely different level in terms of performance to those cars, and for me, these are now super hatches, not hot hatches. They're just too brilliant in their performance to just be denoted as a normal hot hatch.
With the Civic, we talked a lot about ride comfort and stuff. How does that compare, would you say?
Well, I was expecting the Focus RS to be, again, a very firm car like the Civic Type R. It's a Civic Type R. It's very, very hard, especially in its Plus R mode. But actually, the Focus RS, pleasingly, in its normal mode, is actually as comfortable, I would say, as a Focus ST. Comfortable enough to potter around if you want to just, do the shopping or take someone on a lift or something, and it's actually quite comfortable. I can't really complain about the comfort of the car. It only really becomes uncomfortable on the roads when you start putting it into sport or race mode, when the suspension stiffens up. I don't really think there's a need for that on our sort of lumpy, bumpy British roads, but definitely on the track, having the option to stiffen up the suspension is really, really helpful, as we found out, because on a circuit what you can do with the Focus RS is just remarkable. It's definitely the fastest car I've driven on circuit so far, albeit I haven't driven many rapid cars so far, but it's definitely quicker than the Civic Type R, considerably so, I would say.
Moving on from that slightly, John, the Civic Type R is a very striking beast.
Yes.
It's got a very, very defined look about it. Now, we saw both the Civic Type R and the Focus RS at the Frankfurt Motor Show last September. We did make a short video about the Focus RS, if you want to pop onto our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But the Focus RS, just looking at it, I wouldn't say that it has the same sort of striking features as the Civic Type R.
No.
What are your thoughts on that? Because I'd be interested to know which you prefer the look of, as well as just the feel. Because a lot of people will buy cars based on what they look like.
Yeah, looks are important. I think what the Honda does well, and Honda does well in general, is integrating the rear handle for the 5-door cars into sort of the window line, which is really good. Ford obviously don't do that with the RS, so this is still a 5-door car. It would look more aggressive and better as a 3-door. But overall, and Chief Engineer Tyrone Johnson said this to us when we had a chat with him about the car as well, that there's nothing on the Focus RS that isn't functional. They haven't put any winglets or aerodynamics on the car for any reason other than it needs to be there. On the Civic Type R, there is some some question about some of the gills and the fins on that car as to whether they actually do anything. Some of the vents, for example, are actually filled in some places on the Civic Type R. But on the Focus RS, everything there is for a functional reason. They told us that there is zero lift generated on both the front and the rear, so the downforce is already adequate enough to not lift the car up off the ground when it's going fast.
Wow. Which
is impressive as well. There's optional black alloy wheels, and they actually save about 950 grams per wheel in weight as well. So
that's impressive.
It's a much more functional car in terms of its design than perhaps the Civic Type R is, because it's such an aggressive looking thing. The Civic Type R, it probably doesn't all need to be there. Honda always said that the Civic Type R actually produces downforce, but they never actually came clear on what that figure was, how much downforce that is. But Ford have just said there's zero lift, which is absolutely fine for circuit work and that kind of thing. You don't need to worry about aerodynamics really in a road car. But no, it was enormously impressive, absolutely rapid. The launch control in the Focus RS is remarkable. You just get thrown back into your seat. The key to that is remembering that you have to actually still change gear, because the Focus RS is only available with a 6-speed manual, which is actually quite refreshing, because a lot of cars nowadays will have, flappy paddle automatic. The Clio Renault Sport did that, for example. So launch control in a car with a manual gearbox is quite unusual. So after you've been thrown back into your seat and you felt that punch of the acceleration, all-wheel drive as well, remember, you have to remember to change gear into second and then third.
Any add-ons worth noting, John?
Well, there are some add-ons actually, Ben. The luxury pack, for example, 90% of all buyers have taken up the luxury pack. For example, this adds things like cruise control, folding mirrors and privacy glass at the back. 90% of buyers have taken it up, so I would say probably everyone's going to have to take that up in terms of looking at future value and resale values and that kind of thing. 60% of people have gone for the nitrous blue colour scheme, which is an absolutely beautiful blue and suits the car just perfectly. It's a stunning colour, and I remember when we made that video on YouTube about the Focus RS back in Frankfurt. Originally, I think we thought that colour was going to be unavailable, but they said then, no, it is going to be available, and 60% of buyers are now taking that colour up. I believe that colour is going to cost you about £725, but it's definitely worth it because it makes the car look absolutely incredible. There's small changes inside as well. You've got a slightly smaller, chunkier feeling steering wheel, so there's an RS exclusive steering wheel. It doesn't look that different, but it definitely feels different to the steering wheel you'd find in, say, a Focus ST, and it's a lovely wheel. There's so much feel through the suspension and the seat and the steering wheel, the pedals, the gearbox. It's a car that really communicates to you, and it gives you so much confidence. And remember, with the four-wheel drive as well, you've just got all the grip and ability that you need on a road to drive just about as fast as possible. I would actually guess that the Focus RS is probably the fastest car you can buy for road use. I can't see any car being able to compete with it for cornering and stuff, because the more powerful cars are all rear-wheel drive or mid-engined or rear-engined if it's a 911, and they're just not going to have quite the stability to keep up with a Focus RS on some of our back roads. This really is a rally car for the road. For my liking, this is the most complete car I've ever driven. It's absolutely superb in every way. It's got everything you need. I can't really find a fault with it, and that's one of the first cars I've not really been able to do. The interior is still a little bit dull. It's quite black, quite dark. There's not really much changes in there. The new seats are fantastic. There's a few blue touches in the dials because it's RS and blue. But actually, the sparse interior and the plainer sort of interior is great because it keeps the price down. And being able to keep the price down and make this car affordable is the most incredible thing about it, I think. This is, after you've done a couple of options, you're probably looking at £33,000 maximum. And that really is astonishing for the amount of performance you get. It really is.
On the topic of performance, I understand that on the day you had a bit of a go in some of Ford's heritage fleet as well with the RS name.
Yes, I did actually. The Escort RS Cosworth and the Sierra Cosworth were on hand to have a go in.
Oh, lovely.
These cars obviously from the early 90s, these are sort of legendary cars really. The Sierra I went in first, and really you can feel instantly how much lighter cars from the past are, and we didn't take them very far because they're obviously heritage models and we really want to look after them and preserve them for the next generation of journalists to hopefully drive one day. So we just potted around Silverstone in them, didn't really abuse them too much, didn't put them to a thorough test, but we definitely got a feel, and you can definitely feel the lineage from those cars to the new Ford Focus RS. My personal favourite was the Escort RS Cosworth because It's a very compact car, and it's got this fantastic old school turbo feeling where you put your foot down halfway through the corner because the turbo's not going to start working until you get onto the straight. There's a good several second delay between you putting your foot down and the turbo working, which is just so much fun to drive. Yeah, so much fun to drive, and I think it still looks good now. Actually, it still looks good. That huge spoiler on the back is a talking point. Definitely, it's not for everyone. This particular car was bright yellow, but as an experience, it's a wonderful car, and I can see why collectors still really rave about them because it's absolutely fantastic.
Most importantly as well, Tommy Mäkinen drove one.
Yeah, so there you go. Yet another Finnish driving legend, because there's been so many of them. Tommy Mäkinen, absolute hero growing up. Yeah, I mean, I remember him mostly for driving Mitsubishis, but yeah, anything that's...
It was his first World Rally Championship victory. It's the 94 Finnish rally in a Ford Escort RS Cosworth.
So that car obviously means a lot to him as well, obviously winning at home. But yeah, it was an enormously successful rally car at the time. And yeah, it's a very, very rare sight now. So to actually get the opportunity to drive one of those was very special as well. But nothing is going to be able to beat the Ford Focus RS for the time being, for the price, the performance, the abilities of the car, the engineering, the looks. It's got everything you need. It's definitely the most complete car I've ever driven so far. And if you've got £35,000, should we say, to spend on a car, go out and buy a Focus RS because you're not going to regret it. At the moment, Ford are selling 16 a day, they think, of these, and it's for a very, very good reason.
And if you want to read a bit more about the Ford Focus RS and Jonny's experiences with it, head on over to the Yorkshire Times website, yorkshiretimes.co.uk/cars, where a full review has been posted, written by Smooth Traffic's own Jonny Edge.
So, Kingy, you might remember that back in episode 3, when we got back from the Frankfurt Motor Show, from the One Tank to Frank Challenge, we came across at the Motor Show a wooden roadster.
The Wood Roadster?
Yeah. Do you remember how incredibly hideous it was?
I don't think it was hideous. That's a bit harsh.
Well, it was made of wood and it was terrible. But anyway, the fact remains, Ben has found something much more interesting than the wood roadster we found at the Frankfurt Motor Show. Ben, hit us with the story.
So, Toyota, believe it or not, have come out with something. It's a concept car. It's called the Setsuna.
The Satsuma.
Satsuma?
Yes, that's the one. Which apparently means moment. So the idea is that you have this car. It's supposed to be a family heirloom, so it's almost entirely made of wood, even down to the seats, and it should basically be it will look different depending on the people that have owned it, because every piece of wood needs to be treated and loved, and the different humidity will mean it will crack and age differently and all this sort of stuff. So they want you to literally have it for generations, and I think they said it had some sort of meter on it which tells you how many years it's been owned. So so it's supposed to be sort of very unique. It's an electric car. I'm not quite sure that they've really thought it through at this stage, because apparently it only does 28 mile an hour and has a 16-mile range. So it's
goodness me.
So yeah, so it's not ideal, but then again, it's not road legal because there's no safety features or anything in it. On the basis it's made of wood, I think it probably wouldn't be safe on the roads. But it's a nice idea. Apart from the fact it looks a bit like a boat with all the panels on. But yeah, if you look at the pictures of it, it's absolutely stunning, the craftsmanship that's gone into it. There's no screws and things. They've used special techniques to join it all together. It's very impressive.
Kingy, I mean, we've had a look at this. What's your opinion on the Satsuma? Because I've got some fairly interesting opinions on the Satsuma.
Interesting to you?
You've got interesting opinions on everything. Yeah, I mean, as Ben says, it does look like a boat. Very much like a boat. I quite like the pictures of it without all of the body panels on, because you can, as Ben says, you can see how it's been put together, really. So that's very interesting. Generally, I mean, I like the concept of passing it down through generations and then it literally becoming a part of the family, because you've looked after it in a very particular manner, which would be completely different to other owners. However, there's just something not quite right about it, isn't there, really?
There's lots of things not quite right about it. For a start, they've designed a car to crack and age. so I mean, that's not going to work, is it? They've also designed a car that doesn't go any miles per hour at all. What, 28, did you say?
Yeah.
For 16 miles. So it doesn't even go anywhere. It's just a very, very bad... I'm not disputing the craftsmanship and the work that's gone into it. It's great. But a big car company would not want to make cars that last forever because they need to sell more cars at some point. It doesn't go anywhere. It's designed to crack and age, and you have to treat it like one of your fences in your garden. Ben knows about that kind of thing.
Ooh, Ronseal. Get some Ronseal on it.
Oh, Ronseal, if you'd like to sponsor the podcast, please do tweet us at Smooth Traffic. I think I've asked Ronseal before.
We have.
Have we?
No response.
No.
This could actually be a good Wix car, because you'd have to take it to Wix all the time to get the ingredients to keep it alive.
Oh, just got to replace the wood panels on my car.
It's just not a good idea in any way, but it's a top spot, Ben, I'll give you that.
We'll tweet pictures of it and various things so you can have a look for yourselves.
Ben mentioned about the safety aspect of it, and I remember when we spoke to the chap who designed the Wood Roadster, I mean, I rather audaciously asked him whether it would go through any Euro NCAP testing or anything, and he said no, because it's made of wood, and there was only one of them. So, that's the thing, it's one of those cars that you wouldn't be able to mass produce anyway, because you wouldn't be able to do any safety testing on it. You chuck a block of wood at a wall and, well, it's either going to break or it isn't. So,
you know the best way to safety test these wooden cars?
Burn them.
November the 5th, you take them out for a speedy drive and crash into a bonfire. If you can come out of the bonfire, it's safe.
So, as I said, burn them.
Yeah, but it has to be a bit more elaborate than that.
Alright, fine. Testing. Burn them with style.
Yes, yeah, that's much better. Right then, so this weekend just gone saw the Bahrain Grand Prix, the second race of the 2016 Formula 1 season, and we covered the first race of the season in Australia. That was quite eventful. Bahrain, less so. Not quite as exciting. It was an adequate race, I would say. Nothing much more than that. There were some interesting moments. There were some uninteresting moments. In fact, there were a lot of uninteresting moments. But it is Bahrain after all. So, what do you expect? Obviously, another win for Nico Rosberg, Kimi Räikkönen coming in second, and everyone's favourite man, Lewis Hamilton, coming in third. But according to Andrew Benson, and this was a point I wanted to raise because I know that, Kingy, you would absolutely agree with me on this. Andrew Benson is the chief writer for the BBC in Formula 1. The headline for Nico Rosberg's actually rather excellent victory in Bahrain was Nico Rosberg wins after Lewis Hamilton collision. So, implying there that Nico only won because of Lewis Hamilton there. Also, caption later on in the article, the picture, no wonder Rosberg's happy. Everyone else's mistakes have handed him 2 wins in a row. What an absolute load of bollocks. Nico Rosberg has had a fantastic start to the season. He's been wonderfully consistent in the race and qualifying, and he's done a very, very good job. Yes, Hamilton hasn't been on top form yet, but Hamilton's had 2 poor starts, which everyone seems to be glossing over. Yes, he got beanbagged at the first corner in Bahrain, and that was, in my opinion, a racing incident. I don't think really Bottas was really deserving of a penalty there. But it's just very, very typical of the excessively pro-Hamilton media that we've got, implying that Nico Rosberg, a very, very good Formula 1 driver, who now has the same number of wins as Sterling Moss did, implying that he only wins because Lewis Hamilton has had a bad day is ridiculous and needs to stop, actually. Kimi Räikkönen had a bloody good Grand Prix and didn't get anywhere near Nico Rosberg.
Yeah, I'm on board with you there, John. I think I mentioned after the Australian Grand Prix that Nico had a very consistent race, and it was just kind of brushed under the carpet. A bit like how, it was all about how bad Hamilton's start had been, rather than, how good the Ferraris had started.
Exactly.
And obviously, in Australia it didn't work out because they made a mess of the pit stops. In Bahrain, Vettel didn't start the race. But yeah, as you say, fantastic driving from Kimi. It was like watching the old Kimi Räikkönen again.
Yeah, Kimi was on top form, and I think my biggest concern about Ferrari is not the pace anymore. I think they've really got the pace to give Mercedes issues this year now, but the fact they've lost 2 engines in 2 races, I think they lost the second engine in Bahrain, but it looks very worrying in terms of a reliability point of view, and there'll come a point where they'll run out of engines if this continues, and F1 will give them 175 grid penalties. Because they seem to love doing that, because it's another absolute ridiculous rule.
Because that's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when was the last time that someone said, "Oh, Ferrari, they've got terrible reliability"?
Well, yeah, I mean, they've been consistent for so many years, so but I'm just really glad they've caught up with the pace. On the subject of shit penalties, Kevin Magnussen had to start in the pit lane for this Grand Prix because he forgot to get his car weighed. What's the point? It's not hard to just put the car back on the scales, is it? What a waste of time.
I can't remember who the driver's representative was at the stewards meeting, but whoever it is, apparently they said, fine, these things happen, he should just start the race. And then
Exactly.
it was the head steward that said, no, he's got to have a penalty, so he's got to start from the pit lane.
Yeah.
In what world is that common sense? They didn't qualify particularly well, so he wasn't going to be bothering anyone, but I don't understand why you deny a driver the chance to start a race with everyone else just because his car wasn't weighed.
Yeah.
It's just petty bureaucracy, really.
It's typical of Formula 1 nowadays, and it's just ruining a race for a driver for an absolutely pathetic reason.
To be fair, he finished 11th.
He actually did very well, and so did Stoffel Van Dorn in the McLaren, filling in for Fernando Alonso. That's another thing. If Fernando Alonso wants to race in pain, let him race in pain. Ron Dennis is absolutely spot on about that. It should be Fernando's decision. I mean, in the previous days, Niki Lauda was climbing into a car with, horrendous burns from his accident.
Yeah.
You had drivers racing with broken bones. Alonso is in great shape. He's absolutely fine. He's always tweeting pictures of him out on a bike or in the gym or getting up to something or other. If he wants to race a Formula 1 car nowadays, which is a lot tamer than a lot of cars he's raced, let him get on with it. Ridiculous forcing him to sit out of a race. Absolutely ridiculous.
3 things that I'd like to pick out, though, beyond what we've already spoken about. Valtteri Bottas, completely agree. Racing incident.
Mm-hmm.
These things happen. They
can't wait to
outbroke
dish out
himself.
punishments. I mean, that happens at the start of a Grand Prix sometimes when the brakes are cold, the tyres aren't up to temperature yet. That happens sometimes. Don't start just dishing out penalties willy-nilly. I mean, it's getting ridiculous now. You get a penalty for everything. If you breathe in the wrong place, you get a penalty now. Honestly, it's an absolute farce.
The other 2 things as well. 2 cracking performances. Once again, Romain Grosjean in the Haas.
Yeah.
5th place. Superb. Obviously, it helps that they're powered by the Ferrari engines, which apparently are more consistent than the actual Ferrari engines.
Yeah, it's interesting that, isn't it, actually?
Yeah, I think Grosjean and Haas have been a bit of a revelation, and apparently that's the best start to a season for a new team since 1973.
Ooh, good fact.
6th and 5th places.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, hell of a start. And the other one, which I know that has probably been done to death, but Pascal Wehrlein.
Yeah.
What a weekend he had.
Yeah, great weekend.
First of all, in qualifying, putting the car 16th, completely outdid both of the Renaults, both of the Saubers as well, and rather surprisingly, Sergio Perez as well in the Force India. But then in the race, race pace was superb, I thought.
Yeah.
From the Manor car, which last season couldn't get near anything, even McLaren.
Well, they were a joke last season, so to see them doing better this year is great. Wehrlein is a really, really good driver, and I'm very, very excited about his future. And I'm really glad that I called it on the season preview now, because it's looking like it's going to actually happen, which is the opposite to a lot of my actual bold predictions that I made.
So this weekend, on the 16th of April, we're going along to the Coys auction at Ascot to see some classic cars go under the hammer, and me and Kingy, we're going to go along. We've picked out a few lots that we quite like the look of, haven't we?
We have indeed.
I've picked out first the 1968 Porsche 912 that's for sale between probably £28,000 and £35,000. The 912 is a beautiful, beautiful car. Looks just like a 911, which is equally as beautiful. A wonderful looking car.
I've picked out the 1937 Fiat Topolino, which is an absolute little beauty. Such a cute little car. Probably not how Fiat intended it to be described. Looking at going in the region of £20,000 to £25,000. And if you haven't seen one before, hop on to coys.co.uk, give it a quick search. Absolute delight.
Yeah, absolutely gorgeous looking thing, and an absolute bargain if it goes between 20 and 25k, I'd say.
Absolutely.
Next car we've got to look at is the 1975 Isto Rivolta Lele. There's no estimate for this because apparently only 55 were made in right-hand drive. It's a bit of a rarity. It's a beautiful looking thing though. We're looking forward to seeing what that goes for.
Also, the 1985 Lamborghini Countach. £320,000 to £380,000.
Yeah, that's going for big money. I think that's the most expensive car at the sale.
Certainly is one of the most expensive cars on offer at the sale. There are also a few rarities that will be appearing at Ascot this weekend. One of which is a 1936 Bentley Royce 8-litre V12 supercharged special. One of only 2 produced, with the Bentley Special being fitted with the V12 engine produced by Rolls-Royce. Estimated £130,000 to £160,000. But, how can you put a price on,
Well, exactly.
on such a unique item?
Exactly. One of only 2 ever made. Does the other one even exist anymore? I don't know. But 130 to 160k for that, I think, is absolutely top price. I hope whoever gets that for a tasty little price like that. There's a 1973 Jaguar E-Type Series 3 on offer as well. This is going for quite a good price, between £18,000 and £25,000. The E-Type always looks good. It's a great way to get yourself into E-Type ownership, I think, picking a Series 3 at an auction. Well worth a look.
Other than that, there's a handful of Jags, a few rollers knocking around, Jensen Interceptor, a couple of Alphas, Lamborghini Tractor,
couple of bikes as well,
which I'm particularly excited about. Yes, a couple of bikes, and a couple of Maserati bi-turbos.
I've always got time for a Maserati bi-turbo. It's like a Big Mac. I've always got time for one.
So there we go. Saturday the 16th of April, Jonny and I will be trotting on down to Ascot Racecourse, pun intended, for the Coys at Ascot auction.
I have got the perfect challenge for you guys for the 5th car for our garage. I was in Cornwall a few weeks back, a nice little town called Mousehole, or Mousehole as it's written.
Definitely Mousehole.
And the roads around the town were just so narrow and ridiculous. It was terrifying. So for the 5th car, I would like you to pick a car that's suitable for driving around a tiny little village with very narrow roads.
Well, I'm going to make a Johnny Ed style statement and say that I have got the perfect car for this. And I guarantee that the car I've picked will be in the garage at the end of this conversation.
That's a very bold claim.
I bet you a pint that it won't be, King.
You bet me a pint.
I bet you a pint
that the
it
car
won't
that
be.
I've picked won't be in the garage.
Yeah.
I will accept your bet, John.
Who decides?
Lovely.
Who decides, guys?
Who decides?
You decide, Ben.
Well, you two offer up your suggestions, then we'll see.
Cool. Well, I've got the very best small car, or a car that's regarded as the best small car out there, the Volkswagen Up. It's the best of everything. It's got plenty of space inside, it's stylish, it's cool, it's got a lovely little 3-cylinder engine that produces just about enough horsepower, 59 of them, and it's basically everything you need from a small car. And if you pick the right model, prices are under £10,000. What more could you want than that? It's great handling, great fun to drive, it's cool, it's stylish, and it's cheap, and it's spacious, and it's economical. There is no better car to take around a Cornish village than the Volkswagen Up.
That's surprisingly sensible from you. I'm quite surprised.
I'm a big fan of the Up. I've got a massive soft spot for it, but it is a bit sensible. Yeah, I should have said a tank or something.
Yeah, just drive through the villages. Okay, interesting. So, leaving you to go last then, Rob. My selection, slightly less sensible. The Tango, made by Commuter Cars. So it's a tiny little electric vehicle. I don't know if you've ever seen one. It's less than a metre wide, and if you have a passenger, they basically sit behind you. It's kind of like in tandem. It's about the width of a motorcycle, and probably about as safe. The reason I think it's a bit of it's a good one, is that it does 40 to 60 miles of range, so that's enough to get around the village, not to go much further, and it does 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, just in case you upset the Cornish and need to make a quick getaway.
Absolutely balmy that thing does 3.2 seconds to 60. Absolutely balmy. That is basically a machine to transport your organs in to the hospital.
Apparently it does 150 top speed as well, which is absurd.
Absolutely mad. Great suggestion.
Why is it mad though, John?
Well, look at it.
If Tesla can make a car go, make a car with acceleration like that, why can't any other electric car manufacturer do that?
Well, I mean, that's not the mad thing about it. The mad thing about it is
you might as well be on a skateboard.
If they didn't need to make it that fast. They could have it do 0 to 60 in something like 7 seconds, like a sensible normal car does, and make it a lot safer and have more range. 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds in a car about as wide as a dinner plate. That is absolutely ridiculous. That's got to be the most dangerous city car out there. I bet if you had an accident in that, they wouldn't be able to find you afterwards.
That's very true. We will tweet some pictures and a video of that doing the speed it claims, as there are some on the internet. Rob, do you want to tell us your guaranteed winning car?
Yes, I do, and I'm very glad that you bet me a pint, actually, John, because some people may think this is slightly cheating, but I actually knew what you'd be picking, John. And coincidentally, the car that I'd have is the Volkswagen Up.
Oh no!
So you owe me a pint. And I'm pretty sure, because, well, that's a 2-to-1 vote, sorry Ben, The up will be in the garage.
Oh, he's got you on a technicality, Johnny.
That is that is obscene. You can't do that. That is shocking. That is absolutely shocking.
Do you want to pick Ben's car then, John?
No, because I think it's probably incredibly dangerous. But that is disgraceful, King. I mean, you've even made me do the pitch for it.
Well, I've done what I do best there. Let you take the fall. It's still disgraceful though, John, because I'm in complete agreement with you. It's the best car. It's the best car for that purpose. So.
It is. Ben's suggestion is excellent, but it's also incredibly stupid. I feel like Ben's picked my car and I've picked Ben's car for once. Yeah. It's a very strange sort of situation that we find ourselves in. Oh well, so at the end of this little sort of section then, we've decided that the Volkswagen Up is the best car to take around a Cornish village, and I owe Rob King a pint. I can't believe that's actually happened.
Right, well, thanks for listening to yet another fantastic episode of Smooth Traffic. You've listened to me get mugged off by King in the 5-car garage. We've covered the Bahrain Grand Prix. We've talked about the new Focus RS. Now it's time to sign out. Just a reminder, though, this Saturday the 16th of April, we're going to be at the Coys auction at Ascot to see some classic cars go under the hammer. We're very excited about that. So stay tuned to our Twitter feed to see how we get on with that. Until next time, thank you so much for listening, and we're going to leave you with the sound clip of the new Ford Focus RS. I think you'll agree, it sounds rather good.